Hi, Kameshwari.
Hi, ma'am.
How are you?
I'm good, ma'am.
Nice. Good to have you join a little early. So, how's it going?
Good, ma'am. Very good. There are many changes personally I have found in myself after attending your class.
Wow. Can you share some? I'd love to know.
Um, like earlier, I used to stop my child from doing anything. Like if he used to do something, or if he used to throw or do anything, I used to stop him. I used to say,
Mhm.
no, 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 don't do this, don't do that. Now, actually, I allow him to do that.
So, is
And
he happier?
yeah.
Ah,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
and how was the learning class last time? The session on learning.
Yes, yes, yes. It was quite good, ma'am. It was interesting actually. And actually, I feel he's just 2 years old, ma'am. My
Okay.
son.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't implement everything what you have said, but I'm trying to do it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, we forget that, children learn from the moment they are born. In fact, they learn even before they are born, right? And we
Yeah.
must keep giving the inputs because, the earlier we give the inputs, the easier it is for them to make those connections because so many connections are being made in the early years, right?
Yeah.
So much easier to do it. Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
Great, great. Good to hear that. Hi, Madhuja. Great. I think she's still on trying to get organized and get onto the call. Yeah,
Ma'am, one thing I wanted to know,
sure.
uh, like when I try to explain him, or when I say him, this is not correct, you shouldn't do it, like hitting someone, like hitting elders, it's not good. But I don't know, I feel somehow he's not understanding that, and he keeps on hitting everyone. And when I tell him this, he becomes more aggressive.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like I don't know, it is becoming difficult for me to make him understand that no, you shouldn't do this.
Hmm.
Oh, what do I do?
So today is the discipline class, and I'm going to talk about this in detail, right?
Okay,
Today I
okay,
will take it up, and let's take this question after you have listened to everything, right?
okay,
Because it will kind of give a lot of input on exactly, why he's doing this, right?
okay,
So a
okay,
lot of
ma'am.
times we just don't understand why children are doing certain things.
Yes.
But I think today's class will give you a lot of insight into his behavior. And then we can, of course, take this question at the end, right?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
Hi, Pradnya. Hello, Rahul. Hi, Madhuja. Hello. Hi, Madhuja. How are you? Hi, Pradnya. I'm doing very well. How are you? Awesome. Awesome. Happy to know. If anyone's implemented anything from the last session, has any questions from the last session, I'm happy to take those questions. We're going to give it 5 more minutes. Let everybody join and then we'll begin. Hello, Shruti. Hi, Vidya.
Hello, good evening.
Good
Good evening, all.
evening.
Hi, Vedanta. Good evening.
Good evening, Vidya. How's it going with everybody? Hi, Abhishek.
Hi,
Hello. So how's it going? Did anyone implement anything? Does anyone have any questions around what we did last time? Okay, so we'll give it 2 more minutes so that everybody can join in, and then we shall begin. Today's session is on discipline. I know everybody will have a lot of questions about discipline, and I'll be very, very happy to answer them. My talk is basically, first of all, going to be geared towards understanding and getting an insight into the child's behavior. And then we'll talk about specific issues and what to do in each case, right? So that those questions can come from you. If you like, you can actually put them in chat so that if I come across them, I can answer them. But otherwise, we'll have a Q&A at the end. Hello, Rahul. How you doing? How's the baby?
Yes.
I can't hear you. Okay, so I think let me begin. Let me give you a little bit of a background, and then let's start going with the session. So discipline, is discipline a struggle for anybody? Or is it a struggle for everybody? Yes, yes. Okay, okay. I'd like it if you can put down the ages of the child as well, so that we can. Yes, no, as of now. Yes, Rahul. The good times are here currently for you. Kameshwari, 2 years. Pradnya, 18 months. Right. 3 and 7 years. Great. So, discipline is always no as of now. Okay, Shruti is also in the good times, 6 months, right? Now, for the young ones who have little ones and who are not struggling with discipline, I would suggest, listen very carefully to, what the evolution of the whole discipline scenario is, because, you don't want to get into a power struggle with the child. And invariably, there will be a power struggle. So let me begin, and then you can, keep posting your questions as we go along, right? So, are there any other questions? Okay, right. So discipline. So what do we understand by discipline, and why do we want discipline? What exactly are our goals from discipline, right? This is something which is very important to understand. So discipline as we understand it usually is, the child should listen to us. Would you agree that that's your definition of discipline? What do we want? What do we mean when we say that we want discipline? Abhishek, could you please mute? Yeah. What do we want when we say that we want our child to be disciplined? What are our hopes, our aspirations from this? So basically, we want the child to sort of listen to us, right? And why do we want the child to listen to us? So what are our goals from discipline? Would anyone like to answer? What is it that we're really asking for? Children, people who have older children who are trying to implement discipline. what is it about discipline that is really your goal? So we always think about the what. How should we discipline the child? What should we do to discipline the child? But frequently we don't think about why we're actually disciplining the child. Yes, we expect the child to obey us. That's what Vidya is saying. Okay. We want the child to behave properly, Shilpa says, follow set of common rules. Okay, all correct, but what is the goal? So again, these are our wants. We want them to do these things, but have we thought about the why? So in parenting, we're always stuck in the what to do and how to do, but we're so stuck in these two things that we typically don't think of why. Yes, to be successful, that's a very good answer. Yes, Abhishek. And what's the other thing? So essentially in life, we want only two things for our children, right? Our goal from discipline is
Happy.
Happy. Yes. So we want the child to be happy and we want the child to be successful. And that's our goal from discipline, essentially, right? So how will the child be happy? So at a very core level, we know that, if the child is liked and loved by others, then they will be happy, right? And when we say our child is indisciplined or not listening to us, that is what is really bothering us, that they're not following, like Pradnya said, a set of common rules, right? And that is why their life will be difficult, right? So we want them to follow those social constructs which will keep them liked and loved by others so that they will be happy. And we want them to be successful, like Abhishek said, right? So discipline is the thing that will lead to success, right? So in many ways, discipline is doing what you need to do when you don't want to do it, right? So when children are motivated and persistent and disciplined, they will definitely be successful. So with these two things in mind, we must remember that these are our goals from this, right? So what are we essentially trying to do when we discipline children? We're trying to teach them certain skills that will make them happy and successful. So like we said, it's not about obeying us. It's about learning to function in the world, in the midst of others, in the middle of a social circle, right? So learning is a key word here. And the second keyword is, doing what is required to be done in spite of the distractions that are an invariable and inevitable part of life, right? So these are our goals from putting discipline into children. And this is very important for us to understand, because if we think of it in terms of obedience, it becomes a very, very, complicated equation. And very often we will be in a lot of soup. We will get into a lot of power struggles if we think of discipline as obedience as opposed to learning. So we must remember that discipline actually is learning. Discipline actually comes from the word disciple, which means to teach. So, we forget this. So discipline is essentially about teaching children, and it does not have to be by force, right? So what makes discipline so difficult? So nobody likes discipline. The child doesn't like discipline. The parent also doesn't like discipline, because discipline comes with a lot of pain, right? Because when you're trying to teach someone something and they're not willing to listen to you, right? They're not willing to follow that. It is very painful. So what are the things that really cause pain? So number one is disrespect. So when you say something and the child doesn't listen, you have just like, I'm being disrespected. And disrespect is very painful, right? Then when the child does something wrong, say the child is on devices, or the child is eating junk food, or the child is disorganized, disinterested, you have that fear, oh my God, what's going to happen now? And then you also have that guilt. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, right? So both these fear and guilt are very, very painful, right? Then when the child is indisciplined, as in we think that they're demanding a lot, right? I want clothes, I want gadgets, I want money. Not yet, but yes, children will keep asking for things. We feel used and exploited. They don't listen to us, but they're always asking for things. So we feel used and exploited. Again, very, very painful. And the last is, the frustration that nothing is working, the traditional discipline methods, the threats, the bribes, the praise, nothing is working. And that is also extremely, extremely painful. So that's why discipline is so painful. And that is why it's so important to understand that discipline is not about obedience. It is not about following what we say. It's about helping the child to function in a new setting, right? A setting which the child has never encountered before. The child does not know the rules of the world. What we're essentially doing is teaching the child the rules of the world, right? Now, let me ask you a question. Is obedience good? What is your opinion? So a lot of people get very upset when we say, discipline is not about obedience. So they say, no, but children should listen to us. Why should they not listen to us? We obeyed our parents. Why should they not obey us? So let me ask you, what is your opinion about obedience? Do you think obedience is good?
Can I share?
Yes.
So yes, so as I started parenting my elder one, that's what I felt, because that's how we were raised and we were expected to obey our parents, and we did. But now, as she's 7 years old, but what I noticed is, as I kind of used that method of parenting, it did work initially. So I would say it has helped to some extent, but now I'm realizing that it's not really, meaning, like you said, it's becoming more of a power struggle. And that's when it struck me, then that's when I had to kind of sit back and think, that's not what I want. I do not want to kind of, impose on her. I want her to be happy as well. And so I'm really happy about how you are explaining it, and because it does make a lot of sense practically.
Great.
Thank you.
So I'm very happy to hear that, Vidya, because, when children are born, right, especially with the mother, right, the child has no idea that they're separate from the mother. They think that they are a part of us, right? They think that they're a part of us. They think that they have no idea that they have a mind that is separate from us, that they can do things which we don't want them to do, and so on, right? And this is for the ones with the children, with the kids below 1 year of age, to understand that, up until 1 year of age, the child has no idea that me and my mom are separate from each other. And they believe that, they have to do everything. At 1 year, they suddenly start, there's this thing called object permanence, which comes in, where you realize that, I am different from this person who's in front of me, right? And suddenly you're like, oh, if I'm different, then I can make different decisions. I can not do what this person wants me to do. And that's how the word no starts becoming such an important part of the child's vocabulary. So the child constantly says no, right? They may not mean no, but they do say no. Because, how do we come to know what we like? We come to know what we like by first deciding what we don't like. So we first say, no. And then we're like, yes, right? So we come to know what we really like by being clear about what we don't want or what we don't like. And that is why it becomes such an important part of their vocabulary. It helps them to identify themselves and separate themselves from their parents. So my mom is asking me to do something, and I'm going to say, I can say no, right? I am different. So that's all they're trying to prove to themselves. when they keep saying this no, 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 and it goes on, through the whole toddler stage, and then there's the toddler tantrums and everything. So those who have the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, I'm sure you go through a lot of this no, no, no. And in fact, the child has no idea what they want, but they don't want what you want, right? So it's only about the power struggle. And this is something we must never get into. Like, it's important to look at the child. So, defiance is actually a cognitive milestone. We often get very flustered by things which are normal and good cognitive milestones. So if a child does not defy you, you should actually be a little worried that, does this child still not have object permanence, right? So defiance is a very important part of the growing up of the child. When the thinking brain starts developing, it still doesn't develop in the full sense of the word before 8 years of age, but still, as the child starts developing the ability to distinguish between me and you, like last time I was saying, slowly the child starts differentiating. The child starts counting, that's you and that's me. We are two different people. And this is very, very early, as early as 8-9 months, right? So they slowly, begin to have this identity. And for this identity, they keep saying this no. And so defiance is actually a huge cognitive milestone. And we must look at it and we must be like, oh, wow. Now they're developing their identity. And the minute we look at it like that, instead of thinking about it as disobedience, it thrills us instead of causing us that pain of disrespect. So going back to obedience, right? So a lot of people, like Vidya very nicely, shared, a lot of us, we've grown up with obedience as the basic tenet of discipline, and we expect it from our children. And initially, especially with the first child, it is very easy to go that path, because the first child has no idea, right, of what they can do. The second child realizes very quickly. So you manage to make the child obey you. Whatever you say is a yes, right? You manage to get that done by hook or by crook. But is obedience good? And I find a lot of parents, when their children are 8-9 years old, they come and they say, but they've become so disobedient now. They've become terribly disobedient. So it is important to be disobedient in some situations. And that is why obedience is not good, because obedience can lead to abuse. So abusers just use the child's obedience to their advantage. The child has no idea how to say no. And this is such a dangerous thing. Those who don't know how to say no will never get anything done in life. You have to learn how to say no. You have to learn to say no to others, and you have to learn to say no to yourself as well, right? So I'm feeling like sleeping right now, but I will say no to myself because I need to finish this work before I go to sleep, right? I feel like going for the party, but I will say no to myself. So saying no to yourself and to others is a very, very important thing. And the most difficult part here is the children are, they're subject to abuse because they cannot say no. When the abuser is saying something, when you have these classes on good touch and bad touch, what do you teach children? Run away, say no. How many of us have the courage to say no? It's because we've been taught too much obedience. So obedience is not good. The second thing that obedience does is it makes a child prone to bullying. So what is bullying? Making another person do exactly what you want them to do. That's because the child has never been given the opportunity to say no. So that's why children get bullied, right? And the last, and I think the most complicated thing is that, if you are too obedient, you cannot be creative. You have never used your mind. You have never used your creativity to think. And that is why obedience is just not good. It can lead to abuse, it can lead to bullying, and it can lead to a lack of creativity. And that's just definitely not the life we want for our children. So discipline is definitely not having control over the child. We always think that, our job is to control what the child is doing, not allow them to do what they want to do. But that is really not the purpose of discipline. Discipline is actually handing over control. So the whole parenting journey is actually about separating from the child and giving them more and more control so that they can independently live their life. And the more we realize this, the easier it becomes for us. So it's not for us to become that, full-time guard and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. How come you're doing this? And then we get exhausted and we're like, why can't they develop their own, ability to control themselves? Why do we have to control them all the time? But that's because we have not handed over independence to them. We have not handed over control to them. So discipline is essentially about empowering children. It's not about telling them what they can't do. It's about telling them how they can do what they want to do in a socially acceptable way. So does this make sense to you? Let me go to the chat and check it out. Yes. Yes. Great. So I'm happy to know that, this appeals to you because it's really, really important. So essentially, what we want to do here in discipline is to teach the child how to make good decisions, right? Would you agree with that? Good decision making is what we really want for the child. So whether it's in a social situation for happiness where they need to interact with others, or it is in a situation where they need to go towards success, where they need to control their own self and say, I will not get distracted, I will not do this, I will not do what I want to do, and I will do what is needed to be done. So essentially, it is all about decision making. So discipline is just about teaching good decision making. Now, when we stop thinking about discipline as control, we will also realize that discipline is definitely not about punishment. So many of us, yeah. Yes, Kameshwari is saying, never thought about this side of obedience. Yes, it is true. It's important for us to think of that, Kameshwari, because otherwise we'll be in a difficult situation. So yes, Abhishek has said making good decisions, and that is absolutely right? So essentially, we want to teach good decision making. So when we realize that it is about good decision making, we cannot actually punish the child, because when we punish the child, we're actually closing down their thinking brain with our, with the punishment. It's very important for us to understand. So punishment works at a very primal level. We are threatening their existence. We are threatening their survival. I'll hit you. I'll take this away, right? We're exerting our power. And that is when we are shutting down the thinking brain. So discipline and punishment are never, never the same, right? So any punishment actually, so why punishment doesn't work is because it shows you the intent to hurt. So whenever you think of even punishing the child, right, the child detects your intent to harm them. And as soon as you have the intent to harm, they lose trust in you. When they lose trust in you, they stop listening to you. And when they stop listening to you, they become not teachable at all, right? So if you take the discipline path towards, controlling, if you take the punishment path towards controlling and disciplining your child, you fall into this trap. You punish your child, the child realizes that, this is someone I have to really be careful of. I cannot trust this person because this person intends to harm me. And so I must always be wary of what I listen to from this person. So I'll give you an example. Like say, you have a neighbor, right? That neighbor and your cars are parked right next to each other in the parking lot downstairs, right? Now you guys are really good friends. You hang out together, you go out together and do this, that, and everything together. You're like really thick pals. Now, one fine day when you're backing your car, the cars are parked really close together. And one fine day when you're backing the car, you happen to scratch the car, her car, okay? and she comes down and you're expecting to be understood, right, in that situation. But she doesn't understand. She gets angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier. And it comes to a point where she says, so she doesn't hit you. But the fact that she raised her hand scars you for life. Like, my God, she was pretending to be my friend all this time, but she's not. Look at her, one small thing, and she came to hit me. She didn't even hit you yet, but that will scar you for life. Will you ever talk to your neighbor after this? That neighbor. Let's have some answers. No. Would you leave your child in their house to look after? Maybe you were leaving your children before, but after this, would you ever leave your child in their house? No, never, right? So it's very important. Yes, Shruti, parenting is all about changing our perspective. It cannot be prescriptive. When this happens, do this. It's all about changing our perspective. So it's very important to understand that even if we think of harming the child, or even if we threaten and we say, I'll do this to you, I'll take you to court, I'll hit you, right? You may not do any of that, but the intent to harm has been conveyed and the child will lose complete trust in you. And once the child loses trust in you, you will have to go on repeating things to be heard and to be listened to, because the brain will not accept information from a person that they don't trust, right? So the punishment route is dangerous. Now, one of the important things to understand, about the punishment route is that even if you use a non-punishment route, right, it still counts as punishment whenever you have the intent to harm or you're misusing your power, right? So has everybody heard of timeouts? There are many new parents here, so I'm asking, has everybody heard of timeouts? So would you like me to explain what timeouts are and what consequences are? Kameshwari, it is hard, but we need to change our perspective, because that can really change our relationship with our children. And in the end, parenting is about that relationship. When you have that relationship, you have everything. When you don't have it, parenting is just drudgery. It's pointless. Right? So if everybody knows what timeouts and consequences are, I'll just tell you in brief. So timeout is a concept which was propagated by some American parenting experts who said that when the child misbehaves, tell the child to go sit in the corner and think about their bad behavior, right? And they're allowed to come back and mingle with other children and be in your presence only when they then decide to behave themselves. So this was timeout, and it was said that this will really improve the child's behavior. So those who were very influenced by the American way of parenting started using timeouts. Now the other thing that was propagated in so they like this terminology, so the American parenting experts propagated this thing called consequences, right? So there will be consequences. So if you do this, you won't get that, right? So if you say you don't eat your dinner, you will not get your dessert. If you don't finish your homework, you don't have TV time, right? So again, now, although timeout is not a violent way and you're just saying, go sit on that chair in that corner, right? It is a punishment because you're misusing your parental power. Can you imagine doing that to an adult? They will bang the door, walk out of your house and never come back again, right? Also with a child, how long will you do it? I will see anyone do it with a teenager. You can send the teenager to the room. You have no idea what teenagers will do in their room after that, right? And also you're destroying a relationship with your child. So what we really need to do, and we're asking a child to sit there and think, have you ever been angry, like really angry and frustrated, where you're really shouting and yelling? Are you really in the state of mind to even think at that point? None of us can think when we are really angry and upset. When children are misbehaving, they are angry, they are upset because of something, they're frustrated maybe because of something, and their thinking brain has then shut down. There is no way it's working. And that is why putting them in the corner and telling them to think about their behavior is completely pointless. All they understand through that is that only if I behave well will I be loved, which is not good. Because all kinds of behavior, when we say we love our children unconditionally, we have to love them through their bad behavior as well. What we need to do when children behave badly is hold them close and let them feel their negative emotions. And then, when they have calmed down because of getting over their negative emotions, the crying, etc., then we can help them to think of a solution. Right? So eventually every tantrum is about a problem that cannot be solved, a problem that the child still does not have the power to solve. And it's important for us to help them to understand that, yes, it's a problem. It's frustrating you. It's making you angry. It's okay to feel frustrated, to feel angry. I'm there with you. I'll help you with these negative emotions. And when you're past these negative emotions, we will sit together and we will find a solution. So eventually, life is about problem solving. But if you always tell the child to be happy, they won't even be able to see the problem. Then how will they solve it, right? So timeout is one of the worst things. You may not call it punishment, but it is punishment, and it is also pointless, right? Consequences. Consequences are when you tell the child, like I said, if you don't do this, you won't have that. So of course it's non-violent, but it is punishment in the true sense of the word, because you're misusing your parental power. What that tells the child is that I am all alone. If I don't do what these people want, they will not be on my side. They will take things away from me. So after a while, when you ask the child, what do you like to do? The child will say, nothing. Because the child knows, whatever I say I like, they'll surely take it away from me. And that's going to be a terrible thing. So it's better not to like anything, just to let everything go, because with that, I'm safe. So they stop sharing with us. They feel that they're alone. And again, when children feel that they're not accepted because they are a certain way, when they feel that they are all alone, they become prone to bullying and abuse. So these are very, very dangerous consequences of our using these non-punishment methods as well. Right. Now, moving on, there are other things that we use when we don't want to use consequences or timeouts or, physical punishment as such. So we use bribing. So bribing, does anyone use bribing? Anyone wants to share how bribing has worked for them? Yes, Likita? Likita, yes, you face this, the problems with consequences and timeouts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very complicated situation, and we complicate it further, unfortunately. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else wants to share who uses bribing? So bribing is another one that we use. We use threatening. So we don't hit, but we threaten, right? We leave you and go. I'll leave you and go away, right? Yeah, bribing, it's a very terrible thing to use, Kameshwari. So bribing, threatening, tricking the child, right? Manipulating children with praise, catching them doing the wrong thing. All these are methods that we use to discipline children, and all these methods are wrong, right? So when we bribe children to do something, so you say, okay, you will get your dessert if you eat your meal. What are we telling the child? That the dessert is better than the meal. You need to get through this terrible thing in order to get there. So you're making the child hate healthy food because they have to eat the healthy food in order to get to that dessert which they want, right? So it's a very wrong thing. When you ask children, okay, I'll give you a chocolate if you finish your work today. You're like, oh my God, I hate studying. I have to study because I want that chocolate. It makes you hate it even more, right? So bribing is very, very wrong. Putting an extrinsic motivator is the worst thing that we can do for a child. Children should be intrinsically motivated to do whatever they do. They must eat healthy food because they love themselves. They must do the work because it gives them pleasure, not because there's a prize at the end, right? So bribing is wrong. Threatening is very, very wrong, because if you threaten children, you're teaching them to threaten you back. So when you say, okay, I'm going from the park, you're not coming, I'll leave you, I'm going. Watch what the child does when they become a teenager. They will realize that, leaving and going is the easiest way to get work done. But how long will that work? It'll work with your parents, but will it work in the workspace? Suppose you go to your workplace and you say, okay, you're not listening to me, I'm going. We'll say, okay, please go. I will hire someone else. Right? So threatening leads to disrespectful behavior, and it doesn't work in any situation. Then punishment, of course, leads to disobedience. When we punish children, what are we teaching them? We don't teach them to do the right thing. What it teaches them is to hide better the next time. So you must have seen several videos like this. There are a lot of these videos that keep going around on the internet, about how there's this father and son who keep playing this cat and mouse game. The father keeps catching the son, and the next day the son does something more in order to not get caught. So punishment actually puts us in that mode. It makes us more defiant, and we're like, oh, you caught me today? Just wait. Next time I won't get caught. I won't get punished, right? It's the same with tricking, right? So when we trick children, we of course lose their trust and they will never listen to us. Manipulating with praise. Now we think that this is fine, oh, very nice, you did this today, tomorrow do that also, right? So you cannot motivate if you are manipulating. The minute someone is manipulating you, you always get wary. So what do you want from me? So that's what you want, right? And you would never then listen to that person, because you know that person is trying to take advantage of you. So you would never listen to that person. So manipulating with praise is also not okay. So none of these traditional ways of, even if they are non-punishment ways, even if they are non-violent ways of actually disciplining children, they will never, ever work from any of us. So what is discipline? Again, like I said, discipline comes from the word disciple, which means to teach. Now, what is teaching? Teaching is essentially making neural connections in the brain. Now, in the Smart Parenting Workshop, I had said that, the brain grows when new neural connections are made. Every time we learn something, new neural connections are made. Now, neural connections, like I said, they are not permanent. So when you make a small neural connection for a child, don't expect it to be there forever. There will be a lot of repetition that will be required in order for that neural connection to become permanent. So let's go into the steps of creating, this neural connection, which will actually help the child to learn what you're trying to teach them, not require the same instruction over and over again. So a lot of times, we get fed up, like how many times should we tell the child, right? But if we say it in the right way, we will actually make those neural connections which are permanent and which will then help the child to make their own decisions and not expect us to control them and make them do what they need to do. So most of our instructions actually come from words. We speak, right? We speak and we give instructions, and that's how we expect children to learn. Now, very, very importantly, before the age of 3, children can only listen to us if they are also looking at us, right? So this is so important to understand. So if your child is there and you're going on instructing the child, remember that the child cannot listen to you. They may be hearing it, but it's sounding like background noise to them. You have to have, so, when you're speaking to a small child, you will see that they're not looking at your eyes, they're looking at your mouth. They need that much focus. They need to look at your mouth moving in order to internalize what you're saying to them, right? So before the age of 3 years, you must hold your child in front of you, look into their eyes, let them look at your mouth, and then only give instructions. Only then have they actually even heard you. Otherwise, I've not even heard you. From the age, around the age of 4 and 5, right? They're able to hear you and listen to you if it's a quiet environment. So if there's an empty room and your child is playing there, you come in and you give a very, clear cut instruction, which does not have too many parts to it. The child can listen to you, right? But it should be quiet. So if there's a birthday party going on and you're saying something loudly to your child, you can be sure the child cannot even hear you. It's only above the age of 5 or 6 years that the child can actually block distraction and then listen to you, right? So before that, don't even expect it. So when we have the wrong expectations, we invariably, get upset without reason. So this is really, really important. Up to the age of 3 to 4 years, do not expect children to listen to you if you're not right in front of them and speaking like that. 4 or 5 years, don't expect them to hear you unless they're in a quiet space. And only after 5 years can you actually expect them to listen to you even after blocking distractions. Yet they're not as good at blocking distractions. So it's important for you to go tap them and speak to them. The second thing that we need to understand when we're giving instructions is, does the child actually understand you? So a lot of times when we're angry, right, we give a lot of instruction. And we're almost speaking a language that the child doesn't understand at all, because the child doesn't have a well-developed vocabulary. So point number 1 is develop the child's vocabulary in calm moments. So all the time you must be talking and talking and talking to the child, so the child picks up a lot of words. And when you're actually giving the child an instruction or helping the child to understand something, speak in a clear, concise way with few words which have a very definite meaning. Do not put too many elements into something. Also, don't expect them to do this and that and that and that. Just give them very clear instructions about what they can't do and what they can do instead. So you can't just say, don't jump on the sofa. You also have to say, okay, come down and jump here on the floor, or come down, go out and jump on the trampoline, right? So these have to be very, very, you can't just tell children not to do things. They're like, okay, I'm not doing this, but what else, right? So they go back to doing what they were originally doing. The third is, so remember that, words are just noise until we have an emotional connection with the person. So, you can go somewhere and a lot of people talking and talking, but you're listening to that one person with whom you have an emotional connection. So we always listen. We can hear a lot of things, but we listen only when we have an emotional connection. So the emotions are the bridge over which our words travel to the other person's ear and then make an impact on their brain, where they're actually motivated to do what we ask them to do. So that emotional connection is very, very important. And like I had said, emotional connection cannot be built in the moments when you are angry or upset or when things are going wrong. You have to build them by the being without doing moments. You have to build them by storytelling. You have to build them by, playing rough with them and doing all those things. So these are the things which really build your connection with your child. Then you must understand that, when we're using our voice, right, we're actually instructing the child. But does instruction really work? If I keep telling you, do this, do that, no, don't do this, no, don't do that. It's like backseat driving. So if you drive and someone from the back always saying, no, oh, move little to the right. Now indicate. Arey, press the brake. So slow. Arey, you can pick up little speed. Go through the red. It's so annoying. Anybody who drives and who knows how this feels? Yes? Yes, anyone who knows how micromanaging feels? So none of us like instructions, right? If you micromanage someone, they're just going to leave. So even if you have household help, right, they're going to leave. If you have some people on your team whom you're micromanaging constantly, no, not like this, like that, like this, like that, everyone will leave and go away. So instructions are definitely, the last resort in making someone do something. There are 3 I's to making a person do something. The first I is inspiration. I love formulas. You will find a lot of formulas in this. My first formula is the triple I formula of making children listen to what you want them to do. The first I is for inspiration. The second I is for imitation. And the third I is for instruction. Typically with children, we start with instruction and we continue with instruction. And that is why after a while, they're like, what? Why should I do what you're telling me to? Always know that whenever you try to impose your will on somebody, there will be a counter will from that person. That person will definitely not want to listen to you. So you have to minimize the number of instructions that you're giving your child, because your child is a human being. Don't think that just because they're small, they can be instructed all the time. They will just start blocking you and you will end up nagging and nagging and nagging and never be listened to. So what you need to do is you need to start with inspiration. So we must live the life that we're trying to ask our child to live. So it could be about anything, right? It could be about waking up on time and getting to school on time, right? So you expecting that discipline from your child, but are you that disciplined yourself? Do you have that inspiring level of discipline yourself, right? And are you doing that discipline with a lot of anger, or are you doing that discipline, following that discipline with a lot of enthusiasm and pleasure? Because this is who I am. I am a disciplined person, right? So this is very, very important. We must live inspiring lives. Do what you would like your child to do. Live that life and live it with enthusiasm. Don't live it with fear. Okay, I'm eating healthy food because if I don't eat, I'll fall sick. Children are never afraid. They're like, oh, she'll fall sick. I won't fall sick. So we have to do things which are inspiring for them. You know, I like to be healthy. So I always eat healthy food. I don't eat unhealthy food, right? It has to be something which I do for myself. And I'm very proud of that. And, you know, I love what I'm doing. And I'm doing it because I love myself so much. This is who I am. I am a person who gets up on time. I am a person who's always on time. I am a person who sleeps on time, who eats the right food, right? So live an inspiring life. So I'll give you an example, right? You know, it's hard to imagine this, but I hope an example will help you. So say, you know, you go to a resort and you've gone for a holiday, right? And you've gone there after a lot of whole week's work, and you get into your room, you find this nice, well-made bed in front of you. And okay, next 2 days, I'm not going to get up from this bed. I'm going to order room service and I'm going to just sleep here, right? So this is what you think. And as you keep lying over there, the swimming pool is close to your room. So you hear a lot of laughter and splashing from the swimming pool. And you go outside and you look outside your window. And the joy that is there and the enthusiasm and the vibe that is coming from there inspires you to get out of bed, even though you're tired, and go to the swimming pool because you're inspired to have that kind of fun. Right? So this is what inspiration does to you. And we must bring in inspiration, because instruction will never work without inspiration. Inspiration makes us want to do the thing, right? And instruction makes us not want to do the thing. So always live an inspiring life. I'll give you another example here, and this is a personal example. So when my daughter was, I think, 5 years old, I wanted her to watch Cinderella, you know, the old Cinderella, the old animation Cinderella. And so we got the movie and we were watching it on our television, and she watched it. And after the movie was over, I asked her, you know, I mean, like, how did you like the movie? She's like, yeah, the movie was nice, but Mama, I have only one question. And what was her question? Her question was, if someone has to reach somewhere at 12 o'clock in the night, shouldn't they leave by 11:30? This is the only takeaway from that movie, because she is the daughter of Fauji. My husband is an Air Force officer. For him, if it is 8:47, it is 8:47 and never 8:48. It could be 8:46, but not 8:48. So all her life, she's seen this enthusiasm for being on time. And he doesn't do it because, someone will punish me or something will happen to me if I'm not on time. He does it with enthusiasm, This is who I am. Fauji's are always on time. I'm so proud of myself for being that person who's always on time. And so it's inspired her to the extent that she looks at Cinderella and she has no other takeaway from the movie except that, this girl should have left at 11:30 if she wanted to be home by 12. Then there would be none of this chaos that happened in her life. This is something very wrong that she did, right? So this is the impact of inspiration. You can tell children a lot of things, but you cannot get the desire from inside unless, you inspire them. So sometimes if we are late now, so my daughter will be like, you should call me up in the gym. And she'll be like, Mama, come home. You need to get dressed. You have to go. You have the next call at such and such time because my calendar and hers are synced. So if she's at home, she'll give me a call, So she's become our timekeeper because, she's inspired so much by all the discipline that we have in the house, right? So there's inspiration. Then there's imitation. So we watch and we learn, right? Again, coming to a personal example. So how does a child learn how to be on time, say? Right? So if every morning we wake up the child at 6:30 when the child has to leave the house at 7 and we're rushing around like crazy, we can't find the socks, we can't find the shoes, the breakfast is not made, we're all rushing around like crazy. How does the child ever learn how to be on time? So you have to give them something to imitate, right? So in our house, we always set out things in the night. So because my husband is an oncosurgeon and he's a Fauji, he has all his uniforms ready in the cupboard always. There will be at least 5 sets of uniform fully ready. So from that, all of us have also learned that, we need to have our clothes ready and set out for the week. We need to have our shoes polished, arranged right next to the door so that we step into them and we go out. Because he takes so much pride in this. And this is what we learn. This is how we learn how to imitate. Because children don't know how to do this. They still don't have the brain to do this. So you cannot just blame them for not being disciplined. You have to give them these little things which they can imitate and learn from. And then comes instruction. So when the child has this desire to do something because they're inspired and they've already put little by little pieces into place by imitation, then you can give them a little suggestion and say, instead of doing this, if you do this, then I think we'll really be able to do it, right? So so when we say we want to pass on our values to children, this is what we actually want to do. We want to inspire them. We want to give them something to imitate. Then we can do a little bit of course correction for them so they're able to achieve what they want to achieve. But we cannot make children do what we want them to do unless they want to do it themselves and they have already tried because they know how to do it, right? Then we have, why don't children listen even after they understand, say, right? So there are a lot of children who know what the right thing is to do, but they don't do it. In fact, they're defiant and they just, they do the opposite of what you ask them to. The reason is because we deceive and distract them and get them to do all their work. So, were you saying something? So because we deceive and distract them. So I had this parent who came to me and she was saying that, my child has been rejected and this is from a country which is famed for its early education. They're in that country. They're not even in India. And no school is willing to keep that child because the child cannot be, and they said it in so many words, they've written a note saying, it is impossible to control your child because he cannot be deceived and distracted. Is that what we want with our child? We want to deceive and distract children? No. How will they ever trust us then? It's okay. Even if you want the best for me, I don't want to be deceived and distracted into having that, right? So like suppose my, again, going back to the neighbor example, maybe I'm really close with my neighbor and she has a key to my house. And when I'm not there, she walks in and she thinks, okay, let me, arrange her cupboard for her. Maybe she has the best intentions. Maybe she's doing it out of love, but I would consider it a breach of faith, right? I'm not giving you my keys so that you can come in and arrange my cupboard and go through my things. I'm giving you my key with trust. So when we deceive and distract children, and we always do that, look there, and we put some food in their mouth, or we deceive them, I'll take you there, just do it. And then we don't keep our word, right? And we do it for the smallest thing and the largest thing. So if you have a child and you're trying to change their diaper, you say, hey, look at that, and quickly change their diaper. Would you like it if someone does that to you? No, I want to be completely aware of what is happening to me. If someone is putting my sari, I want to be there and looking at it. I won't be like looking at the mobile and getting distracted by it, right? So very, very important not to distract children at all, because it breaks our trust with the child, right? And also very, very important not to deceive children. Always and always keep your word. So, when children are small, we keep telling them, okay, wait, I'll come 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and we continue for half an hour. It's wrong. If someone did that to you, you would be very, very upset. So if I tell you, I'll just come in 2 minutes and I don't turn up for the next half an hour, how would you feel? Would you ever trust me again? And you would hate me on top of that, right? So it's very, very wrong to do that. So children, even though they know what they should do, they don't do it because they have a lack of trust in her. Then we come to why do children rebel? So they know what they should do, but they want to do exactly the opposite. So I said this right in the beginning. It's a developmental stage where they're discovering that, I can do something which is different from these people, right? And also we must understand that most of what they're doing to grow their brain. So when a child, say, throws something, why is the child throwing something? Because they want to know how much power is there in my hand. When I throw this hard, where does it go? When I throw that hard, where does it go? So they're constantly learning from that. So, when we're teaching speed and velocity and this and that, some children are just looking at you like this. They have no idea of speed and velocity because they've never learned about it, right? So you learn, so although they don't know the word speed and velocity and stuff like that, by throwing things, that's what they are discovering. So most of what children do is actually building STEM in their brain: science, technology, engineering, and math. And that is why even when we tell them not to do certain things, they continue to do them. And it's important for us to understand that, this is the way they grow their brain, and we must empower them. So yes, you want to throw something, don't throw this. Come, let's go outside. Let's practice this. Let's practice throwing in a very safe setting, in a place where it is acceptable, so that you can grow your brain, but you can do it in a way that you should do, right? So the key word here is empower, right? So you must remember that we are not trying to when we discipline children, we're not trying to make them obey us and take away their power by controlling them. We are trying to empower them to do things the right way, right?
Hi, sorry,
Yes,
I had a doubt.
Yes.
So the point you made is quite good, but I was just wondering, when you think about it practically, say the child is at home, we have guests, and the child wants to throw something, or say at any other scenario where, you don't have the chance to take the child elsewhere because of, what you're doing or where you are, then how do you handle the situation? Because they can be really, I say try your patience, but I know that's probably not the right thing.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest then?
So very important to understand that, children will not start doing this usually in scenarios where it's not allowed. Usually they would have already tried it at home, and they were not empowered at that time. So they will typically do it in social situations where they know that you cannot scold them or stop them now. Right?
Okay.
So that is why it is so important. So if the child is dropping food at home, Give them enough things to drop in a good setting at home. Otherwise, if you stop them from dropping at home because you can be strict and scold them and punish them at home, they will start doing this in situations where they know you need to look good, and children know everything, although we think they don't know anything.
Yes.
They will do it in a situation where they know you cannot fix them, you cannot correct them, you cannot punish them, you cannot yell at them. And that becomes very, very challenging, right? So at all times, we must keep noticing children, be very observant, and learn what they want to do and empower them. Does that help, Vidya?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay, so moving on to the formula for actually empowering children, right? So again, like I said, I like formulas. So getting children to listen to you is the I formula: inspire, imitate, and inspiration, imitation, and then only instruction. Now coming to how to get children to how to actually empower children instead of stopping them. How do we empower them? So what do we do in that situation, right? So the formula here is engage, empathize, and empower, right? So it's the 3E formula: engage, empathize, and empower. So just like Vidya was asking, right? That was her question. So what do you do when children want to do this? So first of all, if you engage with them, you would know that this is what is their developmental stage, and this is what their brain, body, mind is prompting them to do. So it's very important for us to engage with children. We need to listen to them. When we listen to them, that's when we will know, this is what they want, right? It's very, very important for us to understand this. Otherwise, we will discover this in the worst kind of situations where we don't want, where we don't want this indiscipline, as it's called, right? So we don't want to discover what my child wants in situations, in social situations, or in scenarios where, we cannot help them we cannot empower them in that sense, right? So engage with them and discover what is it that they really want to do. Yeah. The second E is for empathize. So as soon as you discover, don't put 30 things in place to stop that. So usually we do that. My child is crawling, so I'll remove everything from the house so that the child cannot get hold of anything and cannot pick up anything. What will happen? You take the child out somewhere, the child will crawl everywhere and go pick up everything and put it in their mouth. Right? So mouthing, holding things, that's the way children discover the world. They cannot see far away. They don't know what the textures are because they've never felt them. They need to pick up things. They need to put them in their mouth. They need to feel them because the mouth is highly sensitive. And then they need to drop them and pick them up in order to see whether they're light or heavy. Do they fall with a thud? Do they break when they fall? All these things they need to discover by doing it. If we prevent them at home, we give them a completely empty room. Okay, the child is crawling, just empty out the house so they have nothing to put in their mouth and nothing to touch. The child will do exactly what you don't want them to do when you go out. So the first point is to engage, to discover what the child wants to do. And the second thing to do is empower. So empower the child, let them do empathize, So understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? And the last is then empower. Let the child, do what they need to do in the right way so that you don't have a problem with that, right? So it's always engage, empathize, and then empower. If you don't empower, you will find that the child is finding devious ways to empower themselves because nobody likes to be powerless. And when we are powerless, we throw tantrums. So you will find that, powerful people never throw tantrums, even if you look at adults, right? If we are powerful, we know that we'll just whisper instructions and they'll get done. We don't need to shout and scream. It is only when we feel completely powerless that we start raising our voices, right? We raise our voice because we are not being heard. That's why we shout. That's why we scream. That's why then we also, when we are frustrated that no one is listening to me when I'm shouting and screaming as well, then we start hitting, right? So even if you look at adults, this is how the progression goes, right? So you have people who want something, right? In a democracy. They've been asking and asking and asking, but the government is not listening. So finally, they're powerless, they cannot do anything. So they get onto the roads and they start protesting in a procession. They're shouting loudly, they're hoping to be heard, right? Now, if you still don't listen to them, if the government still doesn't listen to them, then there will be an anarchy. They will start going around breaking things and all to get attention. That is exactly what children do. When we don't listen to them, that's when they get angry, they shout, they hit, they break things. So if we don't want that, then we need to engage, empathize, and empower. I'll stop here. Let me know if you have any questions. I've given you a lot of, thing, and I'm going to go to the next part now. So let me know if you have any questions still here.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, Pradnya.
My child is into now baby-led weaning. Means he is having his food on his own since he was 7 months old. Now he's 18 months old. Of course, he's not eating the way I hope for. But the thing is, the way he eats, I have to give him a bath. So he's bathing, maybe you can say thrice or 4 times a day. So morning baths are generally easy, but another 3 baths, he doesn't want to come out of the bathroom. I usually give 10 to 15 minutes every time. He loves to sit in the bathtub and then maybe playing with the shower. He's discovering everything. With shower past 6 months, he's playing, still has not got over that. So how do I do that? I don't want to push him out and then bring. Sometimes he's able to come on his own. Sometimes it's really tough, taking him out. So how do I do that? Yes, I'm telling that only, honey. And just to add on, he is imitating every sentence you're speaking.
Aww.
And he till now I have managed to keep him without screen. It is just an addition just for your information. So he gets to see this screen, so he's so happy to see you, and everything is mimicking here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Children are so cute.
All right, could you please help me with this?
So the answer here is children learn the most from water play. The most.
Yeah.
Right? It is a phenomenal way of building the brain. So when children have water, they can do so much experimenting and they can build their brains so rapidly that they just don't want to let go of water, right? So it's very important for us to understand. So playing with water develops every kind of STEM in their brain, the science, technology, engineering, and math skills, cognitive skills, cause and effect, everything, you name it, and that skill is developed by water. So of course, children don't want to come out of water. What we again need to do is empower them, that say we have this time during which we are actually going to play with water, right? And let him choose the time. Also let him set up a timer, right? So maybe you can have a timer, like we have, physical timer. So he can set that up for him, for himself. And he can say, okay, when this alarm goes, then I will come out myself, right? So it's not a power struggle anymore. And also you've given him sufficient time, right? So have this discussion with him and say that, when we eat and we want to finish, when we clean up, that time we want to do it fast. But at this time, we will have like this much time for water play, right? And you can decide when you will come out. So you will put the timer and you will tell me, Mama, can I come out? Also, children, when they're playing with water, sometimes it becomes very monotonous play because they don't know what to do next. So sometimes we can actually scaffold the play and we can say, see, you can do this as well. Hey, look, you can take the water out through this chalni kind of thing, so the water's coming out like this, right? So they know that, look, she's my partner. She's not my enemy. She's not on the opposite team who's trying to stop me. So that really encourages children. And then they're willing to do what you want them to do because you are empowering them to do what they want to do.
Yeah. I shall try this.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question.
I have a question.
Yes.
So could I ask?
Yes.
Abhishek this side.
Yes, Abhishek.
So we have a nephew who it is very difficult to make him sit and study. He's 6 years old. So it's very difficult. Whenever we make him sit and study, he's scribbling hard, he's breaking the pencils and he's scribbling on the wall, he's shouting. So sometimes my grandmother hits him, so he hits her back. So now it is a little bit become very difficult to make him sit and study, is not doing well in school. So how do we go about, how do we start and make things right again?
So, it's important to learn about learning, right? The parents should understand how to learn. So, that's the whole thing that, why is the child pressing so hard on the paper? Because the child has not been given an opportunity to write, on the walls, move their hands, cross the midline, detect how much power to put on the paper, and so on and so forth, right? So because of that, the child feels challenged in this situation. So if you give me something to do, which I don't know how to do very well, right? I'll try to do it. And if you insist that, and I don't want to do it, so I'm feeling very small, my self-esteem is going down as I'm trying to do what I don't know how to do. And I'm feeling smaller and smaller and smaller. And nobody's listening to me. They're not even allowing me to get out of that situation. So then I'll start misbehaving because I know that that's the easiest way then to get out of that situation, right? So it's very important for us to teach children. So, we often think of discipline only in the context of listening. But we must understand that when we cannot understand something, when we feel incapable, and I'm going to come to that next, we actually feel so small that we want to misbehave in order to feel powerful. And that's exactly what's happening with him, right? So he has to be taught in a way. So like I had said last time, if you were there in the class, if you watched the video, it's LSRW. If he doesn't know how to listen, speak, and read, he cannot write. So it has to start in that order. Otherwise, he's feeling so small that he's misbehaving in that situation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Right, most welcome. One second, I saw another question. Yeah, how to, Kameshwari, what do we do when the child wants something which is not good for them? So it's very important, so the first thing, we need to help children make decisions about is safety, right? So the child has to be able to understand what is safe and not safe, what is okay and not okay, right? And if they cannot have something, what can they have instead, right? So we must understand that children don't understand a lot of things. So I don't have an example here, so I'll give you my own example. So say, you go to a restaurant, right? And there's a beautiful decor over there. And the child, of course, wants to pick up everything and see it and handle it and move it around and drop it and pick it up. And of course, that's not allowed. And you cannot allow the child to do that. So you teach the child in a very acceptable way how to do what they want to do. So again, engage. So as soon as you engage with the child, you understand that this is something very exciting. I may have been to 2 million restaurants in my life. And for me, all these things are routine and I really don't think too much about it. But for the child, this is a very, very exciting thing, right? I empathize with the fact that he wants to pick this up and move it around, right? And then only I'll be in a position to empower. So number one, I should get excited with the child. Oh, that's so pretty. Look at that. Oh my, look at that. Can you see? So, it's important to understand that they cannot see and internalize. So if we are excited as them, then we can actually point out, can you see? It's like this and it's like that. Oh, so nice. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So we're showing them that, without touching, without getting it into our hands, we can still admire something. We're just teaching them. Again, it is only about teaching, not about controlling the child. And then, of course, have that desire. We wanted to pick it up, right? It would be really nice, but they've arranged it so nicely. I don't think they can pick it up. It won't be nice, right? Let's just see it from here. And if possible, then you can actually go and, say, oh, we really want to pick it up. Can you give us one little bit? And the restaurant may be just nice enough and give you one and say, yeah, you can have this, you can hold this, you can see it. You can take a look at it, right? So we're teaching them the socially acceptable way of satisfying their curiosity and growing their brain, right? So this is all discipline is about. I hope I've answered your question, Kameshwari.
Yeah, just one more thing, you were asking about inspiration, right? We have to be
Yes.
inspiration to our children. But sometimes what we do, we become a bad example, we become angry, or sometimes maybe that time only the child catches that off thing which we are not supposed to do. So how do we go about this?
So A is, so parenting, Abhishek, is all about controlling ourselves. Parenting is about the parent. It's never about the child. As soon as we make it about the child, you will find the things have started going wrong, right? So it's all about changing our behavior to inspire. So, okay, we do get angry sometimes. I mean, we're all human and there will be times. But whenever we get angry, it's important for us to also fix it later, So tell the child that, see, I did this and it was wrong, right? So I think I'm going to say sorry, or I think I'm going to do this to repair the situation, right? So the child realizes that, that we do go wrong. Mistakes do happen. And everybody makes mistakes, but we should make an effort to fix our mistakes and also make an effort to not make that mistake again. So we must also show them how we will plan such that we will not make that mistake again. And that is very, very important. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, Dhruva.
Ma'am, basically, it's about my nephew who's 13 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he was the last one to get a phone in his group because all of them have, and he travels alone and all. And he's a brilliant child. But suddenly, and his mother decided that, I will give the power to him. Let him decide if he wants to study, if he doesn't want to study. Because she was like, always teaching him and, always telling him that, or used to sit with him with exams. But now that she's given him the power, he doesn't want to study at all. So, sometimes he'll be busy on mobile, sometimes he'll be listening to music, sometimes TV, but studies has become the last priority for him. But he is very brilliant. So his mother doesn't know how to handle the situation. So sometimes it's very confusing for the parent.
So it's very important to understand that after 8, the parenting changes completely because the brain changes completely, right? So 13 is that age. You need to understand the child very differently. And all this is coming from the control that she has exercised through the easy years, right? Till 8, she has nicely controlled him. So now it's really getting out of control. So this is the, if you look at it, this is the disadvantage from actually controlling children. They never learn how to control themselves. And as soon as we hand over control, so you can't one day give the car keys if you have never taught the child how to drive. Right? So you need to slowly teach the child how to drive. So, I won't go into 13 now. I'm doing a workshop actually on the 24th for the parents of 8 to 18-year-olds. Okay. I can share details with you if you like. You can ask her to join that workshop if she likes, So it's very important to understand children in a different context when they are 13.
Few tips, ma'am, like something that I can...
Again, engage, empathize, empower. That's the most important thing here. Engage with the child, empathize with his need to use the phone, and empower him that, you can do this and that. And for that, you can help the child to actually get it done, right? In a way, instead of just saying, okay, you do it. Now make a plan for the child so that the child can do it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Right, okay. So, yes. So now, moving on, and talking about, why do children behave badly, So why do they throw tantrums, or why do they shout and scream and hit and so on? And so it's very important to understand that all these are, of course, behaviors. And behavior, what is behavior? Behavior is actually an emotion that is spilling over, right? So when we cannot control our emotions, that's when it comes out as behavior. So when you cannot control your emotion of happiness, then it comes out in a big smile, it comes out in laughter. When you cannot endure your emotion of sadness, anger, frustration, etc., it comes out in shouting, it comes out in a tantrum, it comes out in hitting, it comes out in that kind of behavior. You cannot behave in a way which is opposite to the way you're feeling. So a behavior, when a child behaves badly, they are feeling bad. If you are feeling good, you cannot behave badly. I'll give you an example. Say you've gone to work, right? And you're having a sort of a, one of your subordinates comes to you and they've done something completely opposite of what needed to be done. Now, of course, you need to tick them off. Now, if you're in a good mood that day, you would just point out, no, this is not okay. You need to fix this. See, it shouldn't be done like this. It should be done like that. Okay, just fix it and bring it, right? This will be your turn. But if you've had a bad day and you come to to work with a very bad mood, you just lose it and then you shout and scream and say, what is this? I don't know why I employed you. What's wrong with you? You're making so many mistakes. This is not even an acceptable mistake, and so on and so forth, right? So all our behavior, we behave in a way that we sort of, the way we are feeling. So behavior is an emotion that is spilling over. We behave badly when we feel bad, right? Now, why do children typically feel bad? They feel bad because their brain is not growing. So the task of childhood and through adolescence is to grow your brain. That's the task of adulthood. And we must, of childhood. And we must understand that the brain, so when the brain is growing, it grows from bottom to top. So like we said, it's a pyramidal structure. It grows from bottom to top. When we wanted to diagnose why the child is behaving badly, we need to go from bottom to top and see what is it that the child is not getting in order to grow their brain, which is causing this bad behavior. Why is the child feeling bad? Because their brain is not growing. Why is their brain not growing? So this is the diagnostic pyramid, which I'm going to now share with you, right? So you need to go one by one. So before we begin with that, let me, first talk about tantrum. So what is a tantrum? A tantrum is a need masked by a want. That's all it is, right? So no tantrum is a real tantrum in that sense. We just give it a tantrum and we just, write it off. But tantrum is always a need masked by a want. So the child is throwing a tantrum for a chocolate. Does a child want a chocolate? No, the child actually wants something else. So even if you give them a chocolate, after a while, they'll start throwing a tantrum to go to the park. Then they'll start throwing a tantrum for something else, maybe to watch a device, right? So the tantrum will keep continuing. So you will find that no matter what you give the child, even if you fulfill all their wants, they'll keep going from tantrum to tantrum to tantrum to tantrum. Because what do they need? They actually have a need which is not being fulfilled. And this is what I'm going to try and explain to you in the next few minutes, right? So we're going from bottom to top and we're helping to diagnose what is the problem with the child. So the first and most important reason for which children throw tantrum, especially small children, but even older children, is the lack of comfort. So these are all going to be C's, okay? So there are 6 C's which make children throw tantrums. When these 6 C's are not fulfilled, they start throwing tantrums. So I'm going to go C by C and tell you. The first C is comfort. When children are not comfortable, they will cry, they will misbehave, and they will throw a tantrum. We are very empathetic towards this when children are babies, but as soon as they become toddlers, we get very upset and annoyed with them when they are in discomfort and they throw a tantrum because of that. So what are the things that cause discomfort? Number 1 is hunger, right? Number 2 is thirst. Number 3 is tiredness. Number 4 is toilet anxiety. Number 5 maybe some sort of pain or discomfort, right? So it's very important for us to attend to children and make sure that they are comfortable. So I'll tell you this, if you were suppose going for a birthday party, right? Make sure your child has eaten, your child has a healthy meal, so that they have the energy to go through the party. They have slept enough. They've gone to the toilet. They have no other, so carry some water with you. So they get thirsty, you give them water, right? So all these things have to be in place. So don't put them in very uncomfortable clothes. If they are not comfortable, they will surely throw tantrums, right? So first of all, make sure that the child is comfortable. It could also be discomfort because of, social situations, but definitely physical discomfort is the first thing that we need to eliminate if we are trying to eliminate tantrums. So all these things need to be in place. If these things are in place, you will find that 80% of the tantrums have disappeared if the child can just be comfortable. How you can keep the child comfortable is by fixing a routine for the child, so that all these things fall into place. And these extra things, like, when you go out and stuff, you can just set it into that routine itself, right? So you already have a routine for the child and you just set it into that routine. So the first C is comfort. Always see whether the child is physically comfortable. The second C is courage, right? So when children are afraid, they will surely cry. They will cling to you. They will not let you go. They will get angry if you tell them to do something, and they will definitely not listen to you because they are feeling like they are in danger, right? So it's very important to understand this in various social situations, that children may just be afraid, and that is why they are throwing a tantrum. So they need courage in that situation. Now, they cannot understand a lot of things. So say, suppose you take the child to a beach for the first time, and the child is very sensitive. And the child starts walking on sand, and the sand just starts, sand is not stable like other things, and the child suddenly gets scared. And you're like, "Arey, I love sand. What is wrong with you? How can you hate sand?" So to the child's level of understanding, this is a very new situation. So it's important for us to see how nice it is. Put a foot like this, and all the sand is going to the side. And I put the other foot, and look, it's again going to the side. It's so fun. Come, let's do this. 1, 2, I'll hold your hand, right? So you will find that, when we help children to get acclimatized to situations, when we increase their understanding of the situation, then they feel comfortable and they don't throw tantrums. If we don't work towards that, then they are not comfortable. They lose their courage. They feel like they're in danger all the time. And that's what makes them throw tantrums. So never try to push away a child who is like angry and tantruming. Instead, understand, hold them close, and explain to them. You cannot make a child courageous by pushing them away. You have to hold them until they have courage to move away from you. That's very, very important for us to understand. The third C, which children throw tantrums for, is connection. So you find that every tantrum happens when you are not focused on the child. So if you're having a party at home and there are a lot of guests, you will find that the tantrum happens at that time because you're busy rushing around, making food, serving it, looking after the guests, etc., and you're not focused on the child. So the child will throw a tantrum at that time because that is like 100% going to get your attention. Even if it is negative attention, it will definitely get your attention. And children know at a very survival level that, without my mother's focus, without my parents' focus, I'm going to be in danger, right? My survival depends on her or him, my parents focusing on me all the time. And that is why I need to have their focus. As soon as you don't focus on them, you will find that they're throwing tantrums. And this is really, really important for us to understand. So lack of connection, all the moments of lack of connection, you will find that all tantrums happen at that time. So it's important for us to plan connection at that time. Right. So say you're working from home. A lot of people have a lot of problems. Children just keep throwing tantrum after tantrum when you're working from home. What is the reason for this? The reason is that you're physically present, but you're emotionally absent, right? Because you're fully focused. So you've got a thinking cap on and you're really focusing on your work. So although you're there, you're not really there. And the child knows that, your focus is elsewhere. So that's how children start throwing tantrums. So every time your child comes into the room, don't lock yourself into the room, don't look away and think that the child will go away if I just ignore them. Every time the child comes in, offer them a little connection. As soon as they know that, you are there, you are focused on them, they will continue to play on their own. So if you want children to play independently, first spend some connection time, the being without doing thing, then spend some time playing with them, and then get up and move away from them. And wherever you are, keep making eye contact and in between smiling and nodding, right? So when you show them that you are connected, they will be fine. So lack of connection is a very, very important reason why children throw tantrum. This always happens in situations of stress. Whenever you are stressed, you will focus elsewhere because, stress will make you want to think your way out of that situation. And of course, then you will lose that emotional connect with your child. The best thing to do at that time is to hold your child close. So that's why baby wearing works beautifully for everybody, because we have to do a lot of things. But if we carry our baby around, then they know what's happening in our life. And they then, acclimatize to it because of the connection that they're getting in spite of our busyness. As far as toddlers go, they feel connected when we listen to them. So periodically schedule time to listen to your child. So when they come to you and say you're working from home and they interrupt you, tell them, okay, 10 minutes. See, when the clock goes from here to here, then by the time I'll finish my email, say I'm writing this email, I'll finish it, and then I will listen to you, right? Hold the thought in your head, right? So understand that they have short memories, so they may forget what they want to say. So help them to find a way to remember what they want to say. When the 10 minutes are over, remember it is about trust. Break the thing and go and switch off your phone, look into their eyes, look with expressions. Yes, oh, okay. And then understand, and then tell them, okay, now I'm going back to my thing, right? So it's very, very important to do that, because breaking connection will lead to more and more tantrums. I did see a question. While being in a call, children yell and ask continuously for something. So the most important thing, Likita, at that point is to hold the child and say, yes, I'm going to listen to you. 1 minute. See, I'm listening to auntie. Yeah, she's saying something important. So that connection has to be built, so that they understand your non-verbal communication should be built much in advance before the tantrum comes. Because when you are focused on the phone, they will throw a tantrum. They know that, you're disconnecting with them and connecting with someone else. So they will try to interrupt you, not because they have something important to say, but because they need your focus. So show them that you're focused on them, connect with your eyes, smile at them, hold them close, do all those things, and you will find that, they'll be able to, and develop a sign language with them. Tell them, when you do such things, you've developed a non-verbal communication with them, which will keep them going until you can find time. I see a question about that. Yeah, Shruti, what age can we start to set a routine? Yeah, so I would say from 6 months, starts setting a routine. When the child gets onto solids, you must start setting a routine for the child. And
you get to start.
Yes, when you start solids, the child will be able to eat and stay for a little longer, so you can have a routine. Always remember that the routine is yours. It's not the child's routine. As soon as you make it about the child, it's going to be very complicated. It's your routine and the child fits into it. Okay. Now moving on to the next C. The next C. So we did 3 C's: comfort, connection, and courage, right? Now moving on to the next C. The next C is capability. So Abhishek was just asking about that. When children feel incapable in any situation, they are going to throw tantrums, right? And the only thing we can do over here is understand why the tantrum is coming. It's coming from feeling small, because they're feeling incapable. And what can we do to help them feel capable? We can build their skill in that area. So again, engaging is very important. Empathizing is very important. That's what will tell us what that skill is. And then we can empower them by teaching them that skill. Remember that a lot of tantrums come from feeling incapable. All of us will start throwing tantrums whenever we feel incapable. Now, moving on to the incapability thing, a lot of times, our self-esteem makes us feel small. So always be very respectful towards children. That's what raises their self-esteem. Listen to them carefully. Say thank you. Ask them for help. Thank them when they help you. Say please, say sorry, say thank you. These are small things, but they make the child feel respected, raise their self-esteem, and then they feel, oh, I'm a capable person. I can do this, right? Otherwise, they develop that feeling that they cannot do anything. So that's very, very important. So capability, I'm not, last time I spoke a lot about learning. Very importantly, whenever children don't learn, they will throw tantrums, and that becomes a very big vicious cycle. Then coming to creativity, the next C is creativity. So whenever we go on instructing children, we keep them within these boundaries and these rules all the time, they will throw tantrums. So you will find that, when children come back from school, they throw tantrums. Why? Because for all those hours in school, they have lived very regimentally. Get up, sit down, walk in a line, do this, do that. The bell has rung, go back to class. It's now time to eat your tiffin. So they followed all those rules for some 4-5 hours of of the day. And when they come home, they want to do things without instruction. They want to live a creative life. They want to do what their heart, mind, soul tells them. If they come home, and I've seen a lot of videos like this, my child comes home, puts away the shoes, puts away the bag, does this, does that, right? They're doing that because you're still controlling them. Make them do this when they grow up a little. It is impossible. So let children have that release when they come home, let them do what they want to do. When we overschedule children, they'll come back from school by 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, we need to go for the swimming class. Okay. You will have so many power struggles with that child because you have so much agenda in that 2 hours between 12 to 2, the lunch must be eaten, the clothes must be changed, the homework must be done, and then we must get dressed, get into the car and reach the swimming pool by 2 o'clock. So never overschedule children like that. Children will learn nothing by doing this. You must help children to live creatively. When they come back, let them for a while just do what they want to do. And very soon, when they have done what they want to do, they will start listening to you. But again, it's important to engage, empathize, and empower. Engage with them to understand that, yes, yeah, this is what you want to do. Empathize. Yes, I can completely understand if I come back from office, even I want to just lie around and do nothing for a while. I don't want someone to tell me, okay, make me this, take me there, do this for me, clean this up. I'll get very, very irritated. So empathize with your need to do that. And then empower that, okay, we'll have this much time. You have like half an hour to really chill. And then slowly then we'll start winding up and moving towards the dining table or the bathroom, as the case may be. If we don't allow this, children will throw tantrums, right? So very, very important to also understand that. And the last C is contribution, right? So all of us want to feel needed, right? We want to feel needed. The need to be needed is the greatest need in life. It's old people want to go away. They feel that, they are not necessary anymore. When we make children feel useless, they will start. When they feel that, okay, everything needs to be done for me, I'm not of any use, I can't help anyone to do anything, I'm totally, just a piece of furniture who has to be sitting there and doing what others say, I have no value in this space, they will throw tantrums. So the need to be needed is a very important need. And if children's need to be needed is not fulfilled, they will throw tantrums. So to help that, always involve children in household chores. Let them do chores. There, I will be sending a list of chores with the device class. Those are chores that children can do from their time. They're very, very little, right? And they can do them with fun, with enthusiasm. So let them do those chores so that they can really, feel powerful, feel useful, feel needed, and that's what will make them behave well. Always remember that, without these 6 C's, the child will never, never, ever be able to, overcome the tantrum. So whenever the child is throwing a tantrum, use these 6 C's to actually, understand where the tantrum is coming from, where the misbehavior is coming from, why is the child feeling bad, diagnose it with these 6 C's, and then use these 6 C's to go ahead. Remember that empowering is the only way ahead. Otherwise, if you order, you will be stuck in a loop where you're constantly ordering, and whenever you hand over control, it will be a problem, right? Remember that, if you want discipline, right, from your child, use this 5C formula for yourself, right? So we used 6 C's to diagnose the tantrum. Now we are using 5 C's to help us, understand discipline. So number 1 C here is curiosity. So when we say, oh, is this child behaving like this? Oh my God, I'm so fed up. Take this hand from here and put it on your chin and say, why is this child behaving like this? I wonder what's wrong. I wonder if they need something, right? As soon as you convert complaining to curiosity, you will find that your whole outlook towards the behavior has changed, right? And that's what will put you in the diagnostic mood, and you will start looking for the reason for the tantrum. The second is courage, right? So when do we control children? We control children when we are constantly afraid. So why do we do this backseat driving? We do backseat driving because we feel that the other person will, otherwise have an accident. So it's a fear which makes us want to control. So unless we have courage, the second C is courage. So curiosity is the first C, the second C is courage. Courage is most important when we are parenting. Understand that this is a completely different person, has a completely different life story to live. Let me curiously follow the life path with them and empower them on that path, not define the path for them and say, okay, you walk on this path and you reach that goal. That is the wrong way. We don't even know what the goal is because the world is changing so much. The goal that we have today may not even exist tomorrow. So it's curiosity, courage. Then there's connection, right? Unless you are connected, you will not understand anything. You will not understand your child will not understand you. Like I said, values are all about communication via a very deep connection. So many times, when I'm doing something, I always think back and say, oh, my mom used to do this. Or my dad would have done this in this situation. And that's how I make up my mind. But it's because of the deep emotional connection that I had with them, where, I mean, whatever they have said has gone deep into my brain and made a space over there where it comes back to me after so many years. So I finished living my childhood in the 90s, early 90s. And yet, even now, it's all what I learned in my childhood because of the deep emotional connection. So the third C is connection. The fourth C is communication. So remember to communicate with children. Don't just say, okay, no, don't do that. Always say why. And always give an alternative as to what can be done. So it's only and only about empowering. Remember that. And the last C, the fifth C is collaboration. So don't take on the task of running 2-3 lives. When you have one child running your life and that child's life, then you have 2 children, you're running that child, 2 children's lives and your lives. Anyone's going to be exhausted running 3 lives. Anyone's going to be exhausted running the whole house for 3-4 people forever. Right? So it has to be done in collaboration. If you have to leave for the airport early in the morning, you have to get up at an unearthly hour. Always get your child on your team. See, we have to get up at this time. Okay, so what should we do? See, let's calculate backwards and see what time we need to sleep. Okay, and then I'll wake you up and I'll remind you, see, we are going there. We have to get up, right? And what will you do then? Get to the bathroom, quickly we'll brush our teeth, get dressed and go out. You will see that when you build this collaboration into your child, life will become so easy. Your child will cooperate so much. But typically we don't do that. We never tell the child that, tomorrow you'll have to get up 3 o'clock and then I will just pull them out of bed. And we push them into the bathroom. And naturally, they don't want to cooperate with us. So we want always run the house in collaboration. So the 5 C's that we need to remember for ourselves are curiosity, courage, connection, communication, and collaboration. Right? So with that, I'm at the end. I will tell you some 5 P's for positive discipline, but let me take some questions here. I have some questions here. Let me go up. Yeah, so Likita, I hope I answered your question. Shruti answered yours, I think. Sometimes, this is a question from Shalini. Sometimes if my son has done something wrong or he has broken something or hit someone, he himself will start crying and shouting and feel guilty, even if we do not say anything to him. How to teach him to take control of the situation, right? So of course, when children do something wrong, we think they don't know, but they know, even if we don't tell them, which is why we don't need to punish them or give them consequences or do anything like that. We just help them. We need to help them to feel the, the pain of get over the pain, right? So sometimes when we are guilty and when we feel ashamed of ourselves, we shut out those emotions. We cry and cry and cry and cry, and then we have done nothing to fix the situation. So in a few days, we make the same mistake again. So at this time, when your child is crying or shouting or feeling guilty, hold him close and understand him. Say, engage with him, empathize. Yes, I know you're feeling really bad. Yeah, that broke. I know you didn't want to break it. I know. Yeah. So help him to get through the guilt, right? So guilt is a very important emotion. So every negative emotion has a space in our life. It's there for a reason. So guilt prompts us to change what we are doing. But typically we don't do that. We allow guilt to become shame. And we feel that, oh my God, I'm so ashamed of myself. Let me just shut off these emotions, right? So help him to feel his guilt, his shame, and then ask him, okay, what can we do next time so that this doesn't happen? Okay, you want to pick this up? You know how you need to pick this up? You need to pick it up like this, then it won't fall. And sometimes, children will be like, wow, mama, you're so brilliant for the simplest of things, right? Because they just don't have that experience. As soon as we explain to them, they're like, whoa, wow, this is really simple. I can do it like this and, it'll get done without any problem, right? So always, it should end with problem solving. Whenever the mistake ends with problem solving, you will find that there's improvement next time. If it doesn't end with problem solving, if it ends only with guilt and shame, you will find that the same thing happens over and over again. So I would suggest, get into the problem solving mode, and not just when he makes a mistake, say you make a mistake, right? Say you're taking things out of the fridge and you dropped something, right? Oh my God, why did I drop this? Oh, and show him, oh, I should have taken this out and I should have held that here and I should have put this down and then it would have been fine. See, next time I'll do this, right? So with every mistake that we make, we must also make that a learning opportunity for them. And we must also show them that, yes, we do feel bad, we do feel guilty, etc., etc. But what do we do in that situation? We try to learn from the mistake and avoid it the next time. It may still happen again because the circumstances are different, but again, we will learn from it. Yeah, Vidya says, I've experienced how they cooperate with us when we prepare them mentally. Yes, they do. It is something which I've always done with my daughter, and it has worked wonders for us. So like with the early morning flights, we always tell her, and she'll give us 5 more ideas. We can do this and that and that and that, and I'll do this and you can do that, and we will fix this and I'll remind you about that. Life becomes a breeze when they start collaborating. How can I start all this? Shubhecha is asking, how can I start all these with a 1.5-year-old? Yes, these actually have to be started very, very early, So if I think you joined a little late, Shubhecha. So, right from the beginning, we have to build trust with the child. We have to, help the child. So all the 5 C's, 6 C's that I talked about, we have to put those into practice. Comfort, courage, connection, very, very important, right from birth. And then capability, contribution, and creativity. All these are very, very important right from birth. So for a 1.5-year-old, all these are really, really important. I've explained all these C's in great detail. I'd also explained about how to listen early on. I'll send you the video. Do look at that. And of course, live your life with those 5 C's. Right? So I just told you. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. Vidya says, they feel important when you make them part of your planning and consider their ideas. They feel very empowered. Yes, exactly. The key word to remember, to take away one thing from this, today's session, I would say it should be the word empower, not control. We control children and we take away their power. That's how they misbehave. We have to empower them and we have to look at them with curiosity. This is why you're doing this. Oh, cool. Yeah, nice. It'll be early. Let's do it this way. Right? So whenever you find that, there are more people on your team, you get enthused. and you want to tell them. So children hide from us and do things because we're always telling them not to do things. But it's important for us to understand that, yeah, what do you want to do? Oh, okay. Get equally excited with them. Then they will tell you what they want to do. And that's when you can really empower them. Yes, Shubhesha, do watch the recorded thing. And these 6 C's that I've said, they're very, very important for you to follow in order to understand what you need to do for your child in order to prevent the tantrums. And of course, the 5 C's are very important for us to follow in our life. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask that there are times when the baby is asking uncomfortable questions. So do we like answer correctly, or do we make a story, or do we say something just to keep them quiet? So like, how did I come into this world? So how do we answer these uncomfortable questions?
So all questions must be answered very truthfully. The degree of truth that needs to be told at different ages is different, right? So how old is the child?
Yeah, it's 5 years old.
So 5-year-old can be told a lot of things like, hey, you were in mama's stomach, and then, you came and you were in there, and then you were born, you took you to the hospital, they took you out and they gave you to us. So you can add a lot of details into that. Slowly you can add more and more. Know that your child already knows Abhishek. And that is why they're asking you. So telling a story over there will only break the trust, right? They've already heard a lot of it from someone else. And so they're just trying to corroborate with you. Or they're being left out of some conversation because they don't know something. So, give these small details. If they ask more, then keep adding little more, little more, little more. There are many books actually out there which you can read about, what to tell children at different ages. Do look them up on I think they're called How Did I Come and something like that only. So, you can look up those books and you can actually show your child also.
Yeah. So just adding on to that, so I have a little more question. Like, we don't speaking terms with maybe our maternal uncle. So he keeps on asking, why don't we speak to our uncle? So how do we answer him that question? Like, why don't we speak, or like?
So A is, if he really wants to speak, then I think, we must not come in the relationship between the adult relationship should not be brought into the child, especially the child is safe, if the adult is always around the child, right? So we may not be speaking to them, but we should at least, let the child have their own relationship. And we must explain to them in a very brief and, understandable way for them, right? So it could be a very complicated situation, but you could say that, say we had this fight and finally we couldn't get to an agreement. So until we get to an agreement, we are not talking. We're taking this time to think and to find a solution to this problem. And when we find a solution to this problem, then we'll start talking to each other.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, Vidya, asking for the names of books. I will just see if I can find the names of the books. They're all available on the internet. If you can just Google them, you will find them. But yeah, if I have the names, I'll send them to you. How much and to what extent we can go explaining how they've come into the world. Okay. So I'll try and share the names of the books with you. Let me see. Yeah, how babies are born, So yeah, I mean, like, give them brief, a little here and there, not too much detail. You can go into a different angle, So we always think that we'll have to tell them about how the conception happened, but that's really not what they are asking. You can just talk about, how there was one cell in your ovary and how it started growing, and then there were 2 hands and 2 legs, and how the eyes came and the head came, so all these things, right? So you can just talk about these things. Yes, it's our fear actually, more than the question. We are afraid. Yeah, so don't think like that. Correct. Yes. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, we can close the session. Of course, you can always ask your questions on the Facebook community. I'm happy to answer all the questions there. I will try and share the names of the books over there if I find the names of the books. And yeah, I hope this session was useful. Did you find this useful? Are there any, any takeaways that you would like to share from the session? Thank you, Rahul. I'm glad you found it useful. This is the right time for you to actually, implement these things, because, the identity phase is just coming up for you. So I'm excited to, see how that's going to go. Do ask any questions you have. Thank you. I'm so glad it was helpful.
Ma'am, I want to ask.
Yes.
About how it is really some little bit personal only, because we are facing an issue from one of my close ones, really close.
Okay.
And like what they're inappropriate behavior actually.
Okay.
Like they're not behaving properly like that. But he is very close to my kid. I want to avoid those persons from my kid, and I am unable to explain to my kid why we have to avoid those persons. Actually, they are really very close.
Okay. So is it about body safety?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then you need to explain to your child about body safety, and you have to tell them what their rights are, right? And help them to feel that, so sometimes when we like someone too much, right?
Yeah.
We try to avoid that thought. Like we no, it's okay if you do it. It's okay if you do it, right? But it's not okay. This is what we need to help the child to understand, right? So you can say that, when they were doing that to you, I was not liking it at all. If someone did that to me, I wouldn't like it, right? It's not okay for anyone to do that for you, right? And you have to help them to understand this, right? And definitely, put a big bar between the child and that person, because it's extremely dangerous. Also, I would say, when children are, allowing touch, right, from strangers, it probably means that we are not touching them enough.
Right? Actually, he is not a stranger. He is like a grandparent to her.
Yeah, but so if that child is really liking that touch, that means the child is not, has not encountered enough touch in their life, right? So we must touch our children enough for them to recognize the difference between the different kinds of touches, right? So we, I will go into the detail of this during the prevention of sexual abuse class. So when we do it, I'll probably finish these 5, then we'll give it a month of Q&A and then do the session on that. But just to give you an overview over here, it is very important for us to feel a lot of good touch before we can recognize bad touch, right? And that good touch has to be given by us.
Sorry to interrupt, Devmita. Sorry, I heard what you explained, but I didn't get the question, like her question. So could you repeat that? I mean, what was her doubt? And
so she's facing a body safety issue with someone who's very close to the family.
Okay.
Right. And she wants to keep the child away from that person, and the child is not understanding that. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to say is that, we must encounter a lot of touch for us to understand that this is good and that is bad. Right? Because all of us have that intrinsic thing. But when we have not encountered enough touch, we don't know how to distinguish between this touch and that touch. Right? So it's important. Hold your child a lot. Give her a lot of physical contact yourself. Talk to her a lot. The way, so typically when you find these people, right, they listen to children. That's how they invade their brains. They fill that gap that children have, when no one is listening to them. Everyone is always disciplining them, telling them not to do anything. So this is what abusers do. They come and they say, I will empower you. I listen to you. I understand, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
do the opposite of that. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we are at 8 o'clock and I will close the session. I'll be happy to take all your questions in the Facebook community. Feel free to ask. Remember all the formulas, write them down, and I will see you next Sunday at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Demita.
Thank you, Vidya.
Thank you.
Thank
Wonderful
you,
session.
Shruti. Thank you so
I
much.
think it changed the whole perspective. I last 1 second, sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Titli. I'm glad the session was helpful. Thank you, Likita. Thank you. Very happy to know that, the session helped. Again, like, I was saying, it's about changing your perspective and not it cannot be prescriptive. So you cannot say, put your child in a corner, give your child consequences, hit your child now, don't hit your child then, ignore your child now, don't ignore your child then. No. Okay, I'm just waiting for Shruti if you guys want to leave. Yeah.
He's so small, young, still I could actually manage. So I think last week it was like intermittent. He was asleep and I was little distracted. But today he was playing and I could hear. I could do both of the things. Now he's like seeing and laughing. Seeing me laugh and smile. I think the formulas are working.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. So I saw that you've written that the LLL formula was working, was what worked to make this happen.
Yeah, I have one more small incident was like today it rained in Bangalore, slightly in South Bangalore. So I had to, dry his clothes from the terrace to the inside drying stand or something. I picked him up or carried and, I was drying a few clothes. Later I said, I'll come back. There are a few more clothes and I had left him on the bed. He just stayed playing. Maybe I don't know if he actually understood or he was in a mood to play. But I think if we keep on working this way, they will understand and allow us to work.
Yes, exactly, Shruti. They must understand, that is what we have to grow the brain. If we impose ourselves, we're just keeping the brain small, That's what we do with, when that's what slavery was. You don't allow the brain to grow. You keep on giving instructions. They keep on following instructions. They never grow out and they can never make decisions on their own, right? We don't want our children to be like that. We want to empower them so that they collaborate with us and we can do everything. There's nothing that you can't do in life if your child cooperates and collaborates with you. Great. So I'll close the session. Thank you, everybody, for being here. All the best. Great. I'm glad you agreed, Shruti. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next Sunday at 6 p.m. Good night.